Okay, friends. Whoa, I came in from this side this time. 20 episodes starting over there. Maybe for the next 20, I'll start over here. Welcome to episode 21 of Liam Small, Abridges, A History of Newfoundland by D.W. Prowse. 15 mostly, or 20 pages at a time every day until the bars reopen. Or whichever comes first. I'll probably finish the book first. Just on a quick note, guys, I'd just like to say thank you for any of the words of encouragement or kind, or just telling me that you're listening to this stuff. You don't have to like it, but anybody who's just tuning in, I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling the isolation these last couple of days. So knowing that if I can do anything to help anybody else with this, that's great. It's helping keeping me from feeling like all the days are just running together. So thank you for that little push that I needed to sit down and attack this today. Okay, so last going off, we had... What is happening? We had appointed Dr. J. Ogden to the Chief Justice and a Captain Robert Barton as the Lieutenant Governor. This was in... around the beginning of the... Right at the beginning of the 1800s. Have we moved into the 1800s permanently? Who knows? I'd like to think that yes. That only gives us another 95 years to fucking get through. Okay. So, so we've got Ogden and we've got Barton as Lieutenant Governor. Those are our new guys. As we know, as we've mentioned, these positions change like the fucking weather. There wasn't a whole lot on the go. Oh, there wasn't... I made a note here. There were strict instructions from England about the change in the flag, which became the Union Jack, consequent upon the Union of England and Ireland, consummated on July 2nd, 1800. And I assume when they say they consummated a union between England and Ireland, I assume that means England fucked Ireland. Or Northern Ireland. Just speculating. I don't know how that history goes. I don't think it was good for the Irish. Any who's'll be. Okay, so at this time, the war is still raging on. Newfoundland's doing great. The whole, there's wars going on, people are fighting back and forth, and we're just kind of sticking it out here. We have some American fishermen who are coming up to the shores fishing with permission. Pardon me. But other than that, the whole island, St. Pierre and Miquelon, was all ours. Fuck you, Treaty of Utrecht. Now we got it. Only took a few hundred years. Oh my god, I'm gassy today. Take a drink. We were also pretty well defended at this time. We had a few man-o-wars and a few frigates on the go. Someone mentioned to me, one of my listeners from the beginning mentioned that I called it a frigate, but I could call it a frigate, and there's so many opportunities to say frigate, so whether that's right or wrong, I'm calling them frigates for the other, one time I say frigate this whole episode. Okay, so I'm not sure where we... Okay, so on page 375, I have a note here that says, James Gambier, who we'll talk about, Vice Admiral of the White, who was governor from 1802 to the end of 1803, was not only a very gallant naval officer, but was far in advance of his age, both in regard to his views on the future prospects and government of the colony, and in the furthering of all humane and benevolent ideas for educating the settlers' children and civilizing the poor Beothics. I just want to make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself here. Also, whatever happened to those 3-year terms? Weren't they saying, okay, now we're going to have governors for 3 years at a time? I have not seen that happen yet. He's also credited for trying to prop up the seal hunt at the time in order to encourage more people to stay here during the winters instead of, people being tempted to go to America or go back to Europe or something like that. He wanted more permanent settlements here, which has already started happening a little bit, but he's trying to encourage that the seal hunt is another way to keep people here through the winter and stuff. Anyway, so, in civilizing the Beothics, the naval ruler, again, we are talking about Mr. James Gambier, he has been very much abused in our histories, and it will therefore probably astonish many of my readers to find a naval governor strongly urging on the British ministry of the necessity of granting responsible government to Newfoundland in 1802. I mean, isn't that astonishing to the readers? In 1802, this communication of Gambier shows that he was a liberal far in advance of his time. He had seen the benefits of local government in America and Nova Scotia and knew it was necessary for the progressive advancement of our colony. That makes total sense. He wrote to Lord Hobart on the 12th of December 1803, It says, I'm led to apprehend that the present system of policy observed towards the island is defective, being insufficient for carrying the happiness and good order of the community, which should be the chief end of all government. This I attribute to the want of power in the island for farming laws and for its internal regulation, and for raising the sums necessary to promote any measure of public utility by which an expense must be incurred. Yeah. No money can be raised here except by voluntary contribution, which is a problem, and that mode must always be inadequate for the many useful purposes in which it is required. I therefore feel it incumbent on me to propose to your lordship consideration of the establishment of a legislative power in Newfoundland, similar to that which has been found necessary for the prosperity and good government of the other parts of Her Majesty's foreign dominions. Yes, Gambier, trying to straighten it out. Again, just because we have our own court system, just because that is all coming through Britain, we don't have our own self-governing situation. We can still be a colony of England, but we don't have our own sort of, rules of government and stuff like that. I got one prominent event occurred during Gambier's administration, which is the Peace of Amiens in 1802. All the conquered territory was to be given back, so that St. Pierre and Miquelon was again returned to the French, and the right of fishery restored to them in the manner that they were entitled to enjoy the same under the Treaty of Utrecht. So runs the governor's proclamation. God damn it! Didn't we just get it? Anyway, now we've given it all back. So now there's a new treaty, St. Pierre, back to the French. The Treaty of Utrecht said they could fish all up along the shore, so I guess that's gone back to the French. Now, didn't we just finish a fucking war with I feel like every 5 pages we're starting a war with the French, and then the French somehow end up with St. Pierre, Miquelon, and the shores. Man, whoever is at the negotiating table. Okay. So in the prosperity, so the last quote, his letter, the proposal to establish a government here in Newfoundland, and then the next paragraph says, the British government would not listen to his proposal. They had given Nova Scotia home rule for years, but poor Newfoundland still had to struggle 30 years more before this was born. God damn it, why? It's like, the guy should actually request to never have a government, because it seems like every time they do something, the British fucking crowd over there across the pond are saying, yeah, but we'll do the opposite. So, just a little reverse psychology, man. Like, Freud's about to be born. Like, it won't be long before you can figure that out, please. So we're gone back to the Treaty of Utrecht times. That's cool. Then we start talking about Bishop O'Donnell a little bit. So Bishop O'Donnell and the Protestants are getting on harmoniously at the time, which is almost against what you would think. What do I got here? Yes, O'Donnell and Protestants were harmonious at the time. Catholics and Protestants were working together for the most part, and we built 2 schools, one for each faith, in and around the city. I think one was in St. John's, maybe one was in Carbonear, not entirely sure, but I think there was 2 in St. John's first. So that's pretty cool. And it says here about O'Donnell, besides his efforts to promote education and to increase the clergy in the island, Gambier took a deep interest in the unfortunate... Oh, never mind, we are switching gears. So that was a quick thing about religion, and now we're gonna dive into the Beothic stuff a little bit more. Again, disclaimer, quoted language I'm gonna read. Not what I mean, it's the parlance du jour. Since we're back to the Treaty of Utrecht, I can speak half in French now, I guess. Anyway, so I'm gonna go through this stuff, and again, what's presented here is one side of the story, and you don't know, and he could be right, but I don't know. Anyway, it's not going to paint the Beothics in a super great light. I just want to say that in advance. It's what's in the book, and this is, again, written in 1895. Take a drink, and so we're gonna get through it. You're gonna put yourself in the mindset that we didn't know, we weren't as progressive, even if we did just build a Catholic church in town. As we are today. So just with that in mind, besides his efforts to promote education to increase the clergy in the island, Gambier took a deep interest in the unfortunate Beothics. An Indian woman was brought to St. John's by the notorious William Cull, notorious though, the notorious Big WC, for which he received a reward of £50. Cull evidently did not take kindly to His Excellency's ideas about the savages. In his opinion, the only decent Indian was a dead Indian. He writes to the governor, "The people do not hold with civilizing the Indians, as they think that they will kill more than they did before." All thoughtful care and attention was shown to the poor Beothic woman, and she was to be sent back to her kindred loaded with presents. So she was brought in. The governor wanted to send her back to her tribe with a bunch of gifts, presents, and stuff like that. And then it just says here at the end, with the views held by Coll and his companions, it's very doubtful if she ever reached the wigwams of her tribe, which is a bit of a sin. I have here, do I just keep reading through this? I think I do. It just felt important enough to keep, instead of just interpreting, it's pretty well written. What have I got here? So that was a note, just about his sympathies towards the indigenous people on the island. Now, next up, Sir Erasmus Gower. Erasmus, very cool name. He succeeded Gambier in 1804, and he's principally remembered for the street, 30 feet wide, bearing his name, Gower Street. Good street, fine street, works good. Hates that merge there up by up past City Hall. Anyway, don't need to get into that. That's technically on New Gower anyway. The population at this time was increasing rapidly. 670 Irish immigrants landed in St. John's in 1 year. In 1804, the population has returned to more than 20,000. The quantity of fish caught was over 600,000 quintals. For the same year, the returns to the seal fishery was now a net result of 34,000 seals. And boat or schooner fishery, there was 73,000. The records show great activity in shipbuilding, 30 vessels of 2,300 tons having been built this year on the island. But it says, I don't know why this is important, because it says one important fishery seems to be entirely neglected. The whole pack of the herrings is giving us about 100 barrels. Now, I know he says that the herring fishery is important, but as far as I can tell, it's the first time he's mentioned it in the fucking book. So, I don't know, herrings, like, stick to cod and what we know. Then we imported a shit ton of rum, 221,162 gallons of rum that year. Holy fuck. Bread and flour, all that shit. We find in the annals of this time, and all through the history of the colony, bitter complaints of the tyranny of the merchants towards their dealers. So again, the Devonshire merchants still being a bunch of dicks. They're still getting on like tyrants. They're pushing back against any sort of form. Again, because these guys have had it pretty much the best since the beginning, as they had run the place, and to them, every step of adding governance or red tape or anything like that is pushing back against their rights to fucking make a pile of money and screw over whoever the hell they want, right? So, classic. They sold items on credit. This was a dick move. They used to give people items on credit at the beginning of the season or whatever, and then wouldn't tell them the price of it until late in August or whatever when it was over, and then see how much they could screw them for or how much it would be worth. So there was stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty fucked. But anyway, Gower is credited with putting an end to that type of shit, and he made a proclamation or something that was like, listen, if you guys are going to establish price, it has to be set by a certain date. You can't be doing this fuck 'em over after the fact sort of thing. So yeah, good on you for that, Gower. I'll take my hat off next time I walk down the street. How about that? So then we get into some of you might know what's known as the truck system. The truck system, it's on page 380 here, but basically it means if you're indebted to someone, you get your equipment and stuff from them to work for them under the guise that, okay, I got this, but I'll pay it off through work and return. But then what happens is basically you get taxed on stuff so much and you need more stuff repaired. You find yourself trapped in basically like indebted slavery. It's designed so that you never really pay off your debt. You're not starving, but you're locked in a system where you keep having to pay this interest and this debt. And think about our credit card system now. They can change it, what they want. Let's bail out the banks. Sure, no problem. Okay, gotta stop coming back to 2020. So, we have the truck system. And a couple notes. To this very day, there are places in the colony where neither the wages of the laborers on the merchants' wharves, nor government roads, nor even widows' poor relief are paid in cash, is what he says, which means there are places where there's nothing that goes on that isn't under the truck system. And it's bullshit. And he calls it a terrible evil. He calls it a necessary part of the fishery, but it's just like one of these things that is a really shitty fucking practice that still exists in the world today. So Truck had to be killed by the stringent Act of Parliament in the United Kingdom, but no government in Newfoundland has yet the courage to declare that the labourer is really worth and worthy of his hire. So it was done in the UK, but still not done here, even though we're governed by the UK, as far as I can tell. If we only had our own government here. Truck is not a crying evil in St. John's, was what they say. So that wasn't going on in St. John's, but it is the dark places of the earth that are full of wickedness. It is in the distant outports and amongst petty traders and old-fashioned houses that it still flourishes in full vigor. And he says here, I just got 1, 2, 3 points here. It says, number 1, it is not necessary for a clear view of our history to dwell much on minute details. Well, thank you for that, DW. I appreciate it. From this period onwards, the colony began steadily to improve. A primitive post office was instituted in 1805 under Simon Solomon, some fella. Number 2, a newspaper called the Royal Gazette, which still flourishes, at least in his time, was instituted by Mr. John Ryan, an American loyalist, in 1806. It was published, all the time, which is cool. We got a newspaper now. We got a post office now. We got churches. We got a few schools. We're coming up in the world. Under the continents. And then the third thing, nothing better indicates the pleasant social relations of St. John's at this time than the founding of the Benevolent Irish Society, which can still be found today up on Military Road. Just down from the rooms there on Military Road is the Benevolent Irish Society. You can check it out. There's a bunch of stuff there about that, and let me just find my place here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about... just one more note on the Benevolent Irish Society. From this it will be seen that the society was purely unsectarian in its origin, which is kind of sectarian in its origins, which means it didn't care whether you were Protestant or Irish, or Catholic, of its origin, and all denominations of Christians were admissible to its ranks. The only qualifications required, that being one, should be either an Irishman or descendant of an Irish person. Cool. Benevolent Irish Society. They did a lot of stuff for the town. Just benevolency, it's in the name. Next, moving on, we're going to talk about this fella, James McBrair. I don't know. He started as a poor guy. He joined the Navy. He came to Newfoundland and became like a shrewd businessman after that. James McBrair. Apparently he was hospitable, but capable drill sergeant type of fella. He was really good at whipping people up and commanded... he commanded respect and stuff. Anytime there were mobs or protests, he could just kind of go out and make himself seen, and people would sort of fuck off. At least that is my understanding. This is one of those guys, I just don't really understand why he's mentioned so much in the book. I just have James McBrair, who figures prominently in the social and political life of the colony at this period. He was a very remarkable character. Originally the sergeant in the army, he came into Newfoundland. I read all that. Anyway, McBrair left the colony in about 1822. I don't know why. I mean, I get it. There's some stuff with fucking doctors' dinners, people smoke. I don't know McBrair's. I feel like this is the last time we're going to talk about that fucking guy. Okay, so back to Mr. Gower. Sir Erasmus Gower. Fuck, I love that name. Erasmus Gower not only distinguished himself by his benevolence, his promotion of religion and education, he was equally remarkable for his zeal in reforming the courts of justice. He raised the salary of the Chief Justice from £300 to £500 a year, and the stipendiary magistrates were, under his administration, first given permanent pay. He significantly hints to all these officials that, for the future, they must not be concerned in any private or professional business in the town. Fucking stopping corruption. This guy rules. He's saying you can't be in this position and have a conflict of interest, right? That's great. In his recommendations to the House government, he endeavored to impress upon them that St. John's was no longer a mere fishing station, but a large commercial seaport, that the promotion of agriculture and a secure tenure of lands was absolutely necessary for its future welfare and progress. And I couldn't agree more. Gower, I'm liking this guy more and more every sentence. What do we got here? Now there's some, okay, where do we, okay, moving on. So we're moving past Gower and past fucking, what's his name, who I've already forgotten, to a new governor. Okay, so in 1810, the celebrated Admiral Sir John Thomas Duckworth became governor. You know Duckworth, like the street or the Duke of? That fella. Became governor. He made another and more serious attempt to conciliate the Red Indians. So Duckworth, he was trying to reach out. Lieutenant Buchan, R.N. of the HMS Pike, was sent to exploits with a party of seamen and marines. It was in the winter, and after undergoing unparalleled hardships, they at last came upon the Beothils. The gallant Buchan did all in his power to promote friendship with the savages. The language, okay? To promote friendship with the savages, he left 2 of his marines with them, and some Indians accompanied him back, so they did a little person trade. The bloodthirsty character of these Aborigines in their treachery is most forcibly exhibited by the terrible tragedy in which this promising effort to conciliate their savage nature ended. The 2 Marines left by Buchan with the Indians were found lying about 200 yards apart, that of the corporal being first, which was pierced by 1 arrow in the back. 3 had entered that of Bouthan, I guess, the other guy. They were laid out straight with their feet towards the river, their back upwards, their heads were off and had been carried away. No blame can attach to Buchan for his melancholy disaster. The whole subject of the expedition was to gain the friendship of the Indians by exhibiting confidence in them and trusting white men unarmed amongst them. So that's unfortunate. Again, we don't know the precursor to all this, so that's what it is. We don't have a lot of history submissions from the Beothuk people. Whatever our sentiment, and that's why I wanted to read this page here in the next one, just sort of more word for word, so I don't make a mistake here. Whatever our sentimental feelings may be for these primitive inhabitants, all of their history shows that one ineradicable feature in their character was an insatiable hatred for the pale faces. They must have known, if we give them credit for any intelligence, not a cool comment, that this was a mission of peace and that there was no intention of injuring them. Every other motive in them seems to have been overpowered by their instinct to kill white men. There can be no doubt that the settlers hunted them like wolves and shot them in cold blood whenever they encountered them. The captured Indian woman, Shauna Dithit, declared that the hatred of the white man was so strong amongst her people that she would not be again tolerated by her tribe after speaking with Englishmen. With such feelings against Europeans, all attempts at reconciliation were fruitless. There may be conjectures about the ultimate fate of the Red Indians. Bonnycastle thinks they may have immigrated in a body of the Canadian Labrador, as he mentions. In confirmation of this view, the arrival of the Bay of Seven Islands of a body of Indians who were neither mountaineers nor Micmacs, so he thinks they might have went off somewhere, who he therefore conjectures were remnant of our Beothics, what I just said. This may be so, but the general opinion of those who have studied the subject most closely is that the Red Indians were exterminated, partly by settlers, and the Micmacs, partly by famine, partly by disease. Which is incredibly unfortunate. I thought maybe there would be a bit more in it. I don't know, maybe we will talk more at that time. It feels like a part of our history that needs more exploring, and maybe we'll never be able to. Anyway, so moving on from that, it was heavy. Now there was some contention about pressuring the imperial government in Newfoundland to allow some trade with some certain Americans. They were saying, well, we need some stuff like we do. They have shit we need that you can't. Like, this is becoming a pain in the ass. Can we please trade with them? Which is cool. Needless to say, there was a heavy dislike for the Americans at the time, but it was allowed. Just here I have the merchants petitioned the crown that this money, meaning, so by this money, there was money that the merchants were starting to lease some of the shipping rooms and stuff like that. Okay, so that money. They were petitioning that it might be retained in the colony for the purposes of providing police, lighting, and sewering of the town and to afford protection from fire, which we're not great with fire. This reasonable request was not complied with, of course. However, though Sir Thomas's representations, a few permanent police were established, but in order to protect themselves from fire, the Merchant Society had to organize an association, which was both a fire brigade and a vigilance committee. It was managed and controlled by the astute and ubiquitous McBrair. Cool. Now, another fun thing happens here. Make sure I got it all in here. So now we're in the year 1812. Do you know what happens in the year 1812? A Second American War. Cool. So 1812 began the Second American War. The ostensible cause was the right of the search claimed by England in the impressment of seamen. And I can't read that word. It's funny. The real reason is now admitted by all Canada-American historians was Madison's re-election as president was the reason for the War of 1812. He did not want war, but he felt that his chance of being elected again depended upon him taking that course. All the blood that was shed and all the English and American property destroyed in this terrible conflict was simply to gratify the inordinate political ambition of this unscrupulous man. Politicians, man, they just want to be like if you got a kid and they're thinking about getting into politics, just give them a fucking hug and tell them that they're likable or something, so they don't need to go prove this kind of shit. And it's coming from a comedian, man. So that's the first thing. Second of all, about the War of 1812. During the whole of the conflict, Newfoundland was in a great state of prosperity, so we're good. Wages were high, provisions were very dear, having all been brought from England and the British provinces, but fish and oil and all our produce was abnormally high. That's supposed to be a good thing. In the autumn of 1812, after breaking out of the Second American War, Newfoundland lost the valuable services of Sir John Thomas Duckworth. He was invited by his electors of New Romney to stand for Parliament. He had resigned his commission, blah, blah, blah. He's gone back to England, I think. Now we've got Sir Richard Godwin Keats. The naval career of this gallant officer ranks with the most brilliant and heroic annals of that age. Nothing could exceed his activity and zeal for the protection of our island and the attacks from the French and Americans. So he was a good dude, apparently. Sir Richard Godwin. Don't know if he's got any streets downtown. He must somewhere, do we? Says here, I've got a note. So Duckworth is gone. Keats is in. Oh, yeah. So, Keats. Yeah, fuck. Okay, Keats is in. Yeah, so Richard Godwin Keats. Not Richard Godwin, so Keats. My bad. Our American cousins pride themselves on their naval exploits in their two great wars with England. The Newfoundland records. So America's like, yeah, we showed them, but the Newfoundland records contain ample evidence of their losses and defeats by English cruisers, and very few instances of their success. Occasionally, they made a raid on some remote outport of the colony. Major George Cartwright, in his long diary, gives a graphic account of the way this fine business at Labrador was spoiled and plundered by an enterprising New England privateer in the American War. So that shit still happened. There's also an account of the capture of 3 of our sealing schooners in 1817, given the statistics of the seal fishery. But the destruction of American commerce and the capture of American vessels by British cruisers in our waters exceeded by 10-1 the gains on the Republican side. The English fleet on our shores far outnumbered our enemies. And that, my friends, is page 389, where I will end for today. That was a little bit of a ride. We got a lot of new characters in there. We tried to make friends with the Beothics again. France and England broke out into another war. Classic France and England, am I right? But that's where we're at for right now. This has been episode 21 of Liam Small, Abridges, A History of Newfoundland by D.W. Prowse. 15 pages at a time every single day, at least until the bars reopen, guys. Again, thank you for anybody who's reached out and told me if this is in any way curing your boredom or something like that. If there's any way I can make this more accessible, or if there's something you want to add or shout out, I'm more than welcome to that stuff. Really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for watching, paying attention to my shit. We're at like 10 and a half hours of this stuff now, so still going to try and get a YouTube channel up maybe afterwards. I don't know. Yeah, someone was saying to me, like, you should charge money for this. I don't want to do that. This is just for my sanity and your sanity. So on that note, guys, I hope everybody is staying healthy, staying sane, especially to all you people who are living alone right now, like myself. If it wasn't for the fucking cat, I'd be painting the walls with crayons and stuff. So that said, guys, stay healthy, stay safe. Cheers. Love y'all. See you tomorrow.